Hi, well, no viewers right now, but people will be coming in shortly.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, Zazadi, do you want to introduce what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about movies. This one's going to be about film, and I'd say we're semi-qualified to talk about this, talk about movies in semi-detail because we are film studies students. So even if we can't give a proper in-depth look, we do have some insight from our time studying. And then we're going to do a Q&A.
Yeah, and we look
Yeah.
forward to seeing all of your questions and see if we can try our best to answer them.
So we,
Uh,
we did actually we do actually have a couple of movies that we've planned to talk about. Look at us planning. How professional.
I mean, we're gonna
Yeah.
let's just say for our viewers who come on the stream, we're going to be a lot more organized than we were for our first stream. But hopefully, you can forgive us
that's a that's a
for that occasion.
that's a low barrier to set, but nevertheless, yeah. So the first film that I thought we'd talk about, because the aspect of film that I'd prefer to focus on is film technology. I think that's very interesting, especially how it's changed and how that makes the viewer think overall. So I'm not going to try and go too nerdy into it, but just looking at it from the perspective of a normal member of the audience, just watching a film in their free time, how the experience has changed for them and how it's become easier to make movies to be consumed in that fashion.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's a very interesting thing to
Yeah,
talk about because in this modern day, we've changed from the traditional type of movie making into a much more, I would say, less constricted
yeah,
way of making movies. Like people can literally get their phones out nowadays and start making
yeah,
movies. Maybe
and
not the
diplomacy.
Hollywood style, but in their own way.
Yeah, the technology has become not only significantly cheaper, but also significantly more advanced. So, let's say in 1902, when A Trip to the Moon, the first film we'll be talking about, was made, it cost a fortune to make a film that was, compared to today's movies, even some of the worst ones, extremely rudimentary. But if you look today, you can see even budget movies these days are being made with digital cameras and with CGI technology in
Yeah,
some cases. So it's
I
some
mean, I
yeah,
mean, look how it just shows kind of how far we've actually come
yeah,
from because it started such with much like as you said, Zadie, we
mm,
went from such basic way of making movies that even the worst low budget films nowadays could equal it, if not go even in terms of its technology, it could make it look a lot better than it actually is.
yeah.
Uh,
And I
in
think
that
a
sense,
very like one of the most or one of the best examples of this is the length of movies themselves, because now it's much easier to store film due to the advent of digital storage rather than just using
yeah,
film. And
yes.
because even like cylindrical film has become significantly larger, you can store much more down. So even the earliest films of the time were 10 minutes, and those would take numerous hours to make. But if you look now, you like the latest Marvel movies border on 3 hours long.
Yes.
Yeah,
I have to say, in term when, as you said, when looking at these Marvel movies in comparison to how originally movies were made, not just how they were constructed, but in terms of what audiences want to consume nowadays, has differed greatly from the past.
yeah,
As you mentioned, a trip to the moon. It's such a different storytelling fashion to what
yeah.
we have nowadays, and what we
I
have
think it's
even.
because the general demographic has changed,
Yes,
because people back then were significantly more optimistic about the future, And that is definitely seen in the film, which is in its nature optimistic. It's about humans managing to get into space and encounter creatures like other forms of life on the moon. Like
Yes.
by today's standards, it's because you're not going to get much like that today unless you're watching, let's say, a kids' film. Films today are now significantly more, how would I say it, like pessimistic in their fashion. Now it's a lot less about utopian films like A Trip to the Moon, but dystopias are all the fashion.
Yes, I have to say that there has kind of been an evolution to be more pessimistic about things, starting with like the films we had in the 80s, like Terminator, which kind of showed that kind of dystopian future, that apocalyptic kind of way of thinking in comparison to earlier.
Yeah, and the
And
source
especially
material for
nowadays,
films has changed a lot as well.
yes,
Like Hitchcock used to base a lot of his films off of books, right?
yes,
But the
yes.
type of books that Hitchcock was basing his things off were definitely concept pieces more than anything, for which Hitchcock took and applied this concept to a film. Now you'll just get a Marvel movie or a teen book like The Maze Runner will probably be as deep as you go, right?
I would say on average that may be the
Yeah.
case. I wouldn't do a complete sweeping statement to say that, but I would say on average that would be the case.
Yeah, it feels like, especially in the mainstream, films are veering a lot more from concept pieces and trying to stick to more safe nostalgia, which is almost guaranteed to make money, to make a profit. Because you
Yes, I
could
would
go
say.
from, yeah,
Are you saying that like the prioritizers of film companies of big
yeah,
film companies have changed?
definitely.
Um, it's not. Are you saying it's just Hollywood, or do you think generally on a
What I don't
international
want to
scale?
say is that I don't want to make the assumption that they or that Hollywood wasn't always making safe movies, because definitely they were. If you look back at I don't know if to call it the golden era, I wouldn't call it that, but the classic era of Hollywood film, they were definitely trying to make safe films, but there was definitely more room to look for revolutionary concepts, and there were definitely directors that were very notable that veered from that sort of theme. But now it's sort of a requirement of the art to stick to a specific formula.
Do you think is because the directors have less control over what they are over what they're doing?
I don't
Because
think it's that. I don't think the director or I. It depends from director to director, but I think the studio always has a large amount of control. I
yeah,
think it's more that directors are looking more for self-preservation through making projects that would be deemed as safe.
so can you give some examples of this? Where can this be shown?
The best example I've already mentioned today, but the Marvel films. Like, if you go into the theater and watch a Marvel film, you know exactly what you're expecting, right? You're expecting a hero flick with probably some actor who's already established from other projects, directed by one of the same three directors. So,
Yes, but
yeah.
I do actually think that's why I think now Marvel are taking a very different take with doing it through streaming, because it's kind of different demographic that they're aiming at. I would say by demographic I mean you have
Even
those
if you look
cinema
at the
viewers.
streaming, what's the biggest show or the biggest Marvel show on Disney Plus? That's WandaVision.
Yeah,
The actors were already established from Marvel films, and even if they had never been in a Marvel film before, Elizabeth Olsen is the sister of the very famous Olsen twins, and I'm pretty sure Paul Bettany was already an established actor. So
he
these are
was,
safe
he was, but he was,
and
but I don't think it's just about the actors. I think in terms of when you look at these big movies, you have
the
these
themes
always
are
big
always
actors.
it's always about teamwork, or the theme will always be about we're stronger together, or all you need is the support of your friends. They'll never explore anything thematically challenging, and I think that's definitely out of self-preservation.
Do you think
because
that's just the case with the Marvel movies, or do you think that's
no,
a
definitely
general
not. It's
scale?
definitely where Hollywood is edging for, which is why Parasite did so well, in my opinion, because it decided to challenge that.
Because of its uniqueness, because of
Yeah.
its
Or
sense of
there's probably many movies like it in the Asian market, but because of its avant-gardeness compared to the Western market, I'd say,
yes,
because people weren't exploring the idea of exploitation. Hollywood wants to stick to safer projects. They want to get money off of nostalgia and off of preaching to the converted and making money
yes.
that way. But Parasite seems to me more about making a message, to like delivering a message than making a profit.
Hmm.
It seems to be more of a social commentary piece than a Hollywood moneymaker, which is why it's done so well. And ironically, it's the film that doesn't seem to care the amount of money it makes beyond a certain amount that seems to be getting the most plaudits and making more money.
Yeah, some very good points made. I just want to check how do we have any viewers listening
We
to
have
us
one
right
viewer.
now?
We have one viewer.
Okay. If you do you think we should do you think we should move on to something else to if we are to get any more viewers come on?
Well, it depends. I mean, people
I'm not.
pretty much know what they signing for if
Yeah.
they read the description. But if the one person on our live wants to put something in the chat, any suggestions?
Yeah. So do you think we should? I'm finding this conversation really interesting. I'm
Yeah,
just aware that we don't have
yeah.
many
Hyper aware
people
that we
on as
don't have
before.
such a large audience. No, but you shouldn't expect to get as big an audience the second time as the first time. The first time, there'll be a bit of buzz about it because it's new. But now people know what to expect. They already have made up their minds if they're interested or not. And unfortunately, we seem to have hit a niche, right?
Yeah,
And
I think it's because
I'm not
yeah,
expecting, you know,
yeah. Um,
yeah,
yeah, maybe should we continue talking about the way Hollywood has changed from, as you said, the classic era of Hollywood to more of a, you said, a self-preservation type of industry. Um, uh,
ah,
although that's a very probably I would say fairly
I
accurate. It's quite
I
I
would
would
also like to note that Hollywood has always pretty much been trying to be safe, but it's
yes.
become easier to do so once the formula has become easier to recognize.
Yeah,
And
and I also think it's
creativity
because
is
of the.
becoming
I
less
also
and less.
think because of, I think obviously, as you said before, because of
Yeah,
the audience. The audience has changed to
significant.
expect or know something more, as you said, safe
Yeah,
and stuff, but still fairly exciting and actiony or horror or depending on the genre. Um, they know what to expect.
yeah. And horror especially, because if you watch a horror film, horror at this point has become a sort of cliche,
Yeah,
wherein you're always expecting the jump scare, you're expecting a group of young adults, individuals in their early 20s, you're expecting one enemy, you're expecting a confined space. So, and whilst that's always been a sort of theme, it's definitely vastly different
yeah,
from back in the day, where horror films would range from psychological thrillers to concept pieces like Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah.
Yeah. And so film, in my opinion, although my opinion is rather skewed, admittedly, has become rather simplified in its production and in the concept. And because we have enough sample data on what people want to watch, instead of making something different and something or a new exciting concept, Hollywood are continuing to beat the dead horse. That is these safe ideas. But the problem is that well of money will run out someday.
Do you think, apart from Hollywood, do you think, as you said, in terms of the way films are being made, have differed? Or do you think it's just Hollywood that have, as you said, although retained the same kind of basis on self-preservation, obviously, but do you think like other companies or even independent films have changed their way of aiming their demographic to a more safe kind of space?
Well, I think in every industry there's been this kind of transformation where they're always trying to find the best way to make money, to keep above the water in the green.
But do you think ideologies are being less expressed through?
I don't think the ideas are changing. I think they've always been about that. But I think the way in which they're doing it and the wiggle room in which they'll give for creative expression is and has been dropping for years in all industries. Like although to be fair, in TV, that's a very low standard, because soap operas, with some of them which have been going on for 90 or so years, have always been just about selling soap. That's why they're called soap operas.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, because they were originally formed to sell soap to their target demographic, which they correctly assumed would be stay-at-home mothers.
Yeah.
They would.
I would say no one apart from these big shows, big TV shows like Game of Thrones, like comparable to that of movies.
Game of Thrones
on average
was already very established, which is why it got popular in the first place.
Yeah,
it was already a very popular, very famous book franchise by George R. R. Martin.
Yes. Is anyone who's watching, please share your comments about this. Do you want to hear your opinion?
Put your love in the comments, or not. You don't have to.
No. I'm just saying that it'd be nice to have some comments sharing their opinions, because it's a very debatable subject, and lots of people have different views on it, and it's completely fine to have a different or similar view to me or Zeddy. So please share if you want.
Yeah.
Also, if you want.
And so I'd say we move on to Vertigo. That's another film we were going to talk about. And so, whilst we're not going to go into full detail today, Vertigo is definitely a film we have more of a detailed idea of, being film study students and focusing on Vertigo specifically. I've seen it on some lists online as the best film of all time. What would you say on that?
I would say that it's very hard to judge a particular film as the best film of all time. I think that's a very large statement to make. I would say it obviously, as it's a Hitchcock classic, it's considered one of the best films out there. But
would you even consider
I think it'd be quite a statement to say even a Hitchcock film to be the best film of all time.
Well, would you consider the impacts of Hitchcock's career?
Can you repeat that?
Would you consider it to be the best film of Hitchcock's career? If not,
I would say I would probably need to watch most, if not all, of Hitchcock's films to make that judgment. But of what I've seen so far, it's probably one of his best works.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Psycho is a good contender for that title, personally.
I do think it shows fairly different ideas. So I don't think we should they're that comparable to saying if this film's better.
He does always have at least a couple signatures he likes to put in his films, and even in projects that are vastly different, films like the difference between Vertigo and North by Northwest, his next project, are massive, and yet they still have a murder plot involving a blonde victim.
Yeah.
They still have this, like these classic examples, Hitchcock's cameo. I think an intimidating staircase as well. All these things which Hitchcock, like these snippets which he puts in his films, like an artist would put his signature, or a book writer would put these themes that he shares with the rest of his books.
Do you want to share some particular examples from the films, specifically?
What examples of these signatures?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
do you
I
know?
as I said already, that Hitchcock likes to make cameos in all of his films. Often he'll be walking across the screen wearing a suit.
Yes, I remember in Vertigo he was walking. Yeah, he was walking, as you said, walking across the street. And I
Yeah.
think in Psycho he was, when you see one of the characters
I mean,
coming into a room, you
all
see
the films
them
that
on the
I've
back.
mentioned, which to be fair is a small sample size, 4 films. That's what he's been doing. And then as well, he is partial to the use of using a staircase for effect. And another technique which he is especially known for is voyeuristic perspective. What that is, in simple terms, is when you're made to feel, or when the audience is made to feel that they're looking like in a partially, like they're like, in the way that you're seeing something but that something isn't seeing you, like you're hidden, like feeling hidden,
Yeah.
but you can see what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Hitchcock is definitely a big fan of that technique. He likes to use it to, whether it is to add an air of mystery or whether it is to create drama. He's a heavy fan of that technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you know if you want to share a clip of an example of this?
I think that might be risky though, because obviously there's copyright to deal with.
Of course.
Yeah.
If not, then do you think we should move on to talking about something else, or would you?
Yeah, we
rather-
have a Q&A lined up, actually. We did have a couple questions, actually, although I know for such a small channel I wasn't expecting much. But we do have a couple questions. First question, I won't say any names because I'd like to protect privacy. But
can we just say this is just a general Q&A?
general Q&A. If anyone has any more questions, you'll be welcome to put them in the chat. But the first question here is, the question is Mbappe or Haaland?
Oh, I would probably say Mbappe.
I think it's an easy question. I think right now there is not a football player better than Kylian Mbappe.
Yes, I do think, despite Haaland's talents.
And until recently, until a couple of weeks ago, he wasn't in the best form, to my understanding. But definitely, I think there is no better player than Mbappe at the moment. And it's not that he is especially good at one thing, but that he is better at a combination of things. Like, the combination of all these techniques makes him better than everyone else.
Yeah. I would say despite Haaland having consistent performances.
Haaland is very, very good.
Yes. I would say despite Haaland being one of the best players out there at the moment, Mbappe is just reaching those levels, especially against that performance against Barcelona recently, where he scored a hat-trick. And the way he did it was such class.
But the difference between Mbappe and Haaland, in my opinion, is that Haaland has these defining attributes that if he didn't have them, he wouldn't be able to rely on anything else. Like, he is a very good striker, but if he wasn't so productive on that end, he'd just be a fast player who was quite tall.
Yeah.
Mbappe is not only a fast player and a good scorer, but he's also a very high standard creator He's good on the dribble. He's an elegant passer. He's all these things.
Yes.
He does all these things. Yeah?
Yes. I just received another question, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I don't mind at all.
It's if you could meet any person from history, who would it be?
Any person from history. Now, that's a tough question, but not one that I haven't pondered upon myself before. I'd say the best answer to that question would probably be somebody with very vast knowledge of a particular topic. And if I'd say maybe, or another good answer would be somebody. So I'd probably say I'd like to meet Amelia Earhart, and I'd like to know what happened when she entered the Bermuda Triangle and completely disappeared. Right? I know it's a cliche answer, but I think that'd be very interesting. Or I would meet Arsene Wenger, and I'd ask him about his tactics, right?
Yes, well, you wouldn't have to go that far back in history, would you?
Yeah. He's still alive. He's still alive.
Of course.
Yeah, he works for FIFA. He considered implementing a new rule, a new offside rule. What's your opinion on that?
On the offside rule?
On Wenger's offside rule, he said change it from if any of part of your body is offside, you're offside, to if any part of your body that can score is onside, you're onside.
I have to say it depends on the utilisation of VAR. I have to say if VAR wasn't present, that rule should probably not go ahead because it'd be very hard for the referees to see.
VAR. But I think VAR is here to stay.
Unfortunately.
If you could meet any person from history, who would it be?
That's a really hard question. I mean, maybe like leaders like Martin Luther King. I would definitely want to meet.
Maybe, yeah. A great man. Oh, maybe Muhammad.
Ideally, I would want to meet someone who's great, but not have any like racist or homophobic views.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't meet someone like Winston Churchill.
Because an argument that I've heard, playing devil's advocate here, is that he was a product of his time, right? So maybe it's not that he's racist, but because everyone was racist, or supposedly the argument goes that everyone was racist at the time. It's just a product of the time.
That may be, but I think that's what makes great people. What makes great people is that the fact that they're unique from their time.
Yeah.
Like I remember, if we go back to the Bible, Noah during the flood was very unique, and he didn't act as wickedly as the other people, and that's what made him a product of his time. So what makes a great leader, despite Winston Churchill obviously being like, you have to say that it's all because of him that we even are here today, to be honest, because what he really helped the whole effort.
I would be inclined to agree to an extent. But
yes, I mean
that would be a good discussion for a later episode.
Definitely. Yeah. So, can you think of anyone else who do you want to meet?
I said Muhammad Ali would be very interesting. Because I'd like to talk to somebody involved in that era of the civil rights movement.
Yes.
I want to know more what struggles that they went through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they feel that they helped shape the more tolerant, in my opinion, environment we have today.
Yes. So how has anyone commented on who they'd want to meet?
Not that I can see, but I do have a third question. And this question is about the footballer Harry Kane, actually.
Okay.
So the question is, should Harry Kane leave Spurs? And if he does,
no, he shouldn't.
Where should he go?
I think I heard someone in the background saying no, he shouldn't.
Especially against But
Can you ask him?
should Harry
Can you ask him if he's going to make a special guest appearance one episode?
Nah, I don't know. Maybe later. Maybe later. But should Harry Kane join Spurs?
Did someone ask this question, or this is just your?
This was asked.
Should Harry Kane leave Spurs?
Yeah.
I think he should. I think in order to move on to,
if he wants to win
bigger
trophies,
things.
if he wants to have that legacy, that would be the best place to go.
I definitely a place like Real Madrid, because obviously I know Real Madrid is struggling at the moment, but if you have a player like Harry Kane in that team,
I think
it'll really boost the side.
Where he will go are very different.
Yes.
Because I think he'd be very good at a system which needs a good striker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like maybe a slightly smaller team, like maybe, well, not Leicester level, but like maybe United, but a team that do rely on a bigger striker. Like United have been very reliant on Cavani, who's slightly older, and so maybe Harry Kane would be a good player for them, and he can create for fast wingers like Rashford or Martial, like we've seen him create for Son.
Yep.
But I think he'll go to PSG.
You think PSG?
Yeah. The simple reason for that is because they have the most money.
And because you think Mbappe will leave within the next season?
Yeah. I think he'll go to Real Madrid.
You think Real Madrid?
Yeah.
Not plays like I know Liverpool were heavily rumoured.
Yeah, Liverpool were interested, but it won't happen.
I think it may happen if plays someone like Mohamed Salah or Sadio Mane would leave.
Look at their recent signing history. No. Like I said, or I maintain that when Ozan Kabak went or came to Liverpool, that was a bad signing. That was a very poor because he was wrought with. He had no confidence. His confidence was completely shot. He'd gone from a team that was 20th in the league with the worst defense in the Bundesliga, and you don't just have the worst defense in the Bundesliga if Ozan Kabak is that much of a quality player, right? Like,
yes, and his recent performances haven't shown that he's really a player
who was worth the money, even at 20 million.
No, we have a loan. We did loan him, and we have the option to buy.
Yeah, but if I were Liverpool, I wouldn't carry that option.
Yes,
and the thing is, there were definitely defensive options who were better for the money.
Like obviously before he went to Bayern Munich,
if it was available before he went to Bayern. I'd say definitely if you look at slightly smaller teams, or if definitely players that you could have loaned. Like if you look abroad, I'd say you could have loaned someone from Benfica. I know they have an excess of centre backs right now, or players who have been on form at smaller teams, like Pershores was linked with Liverpool, I think, and he's very good. I think Pershores may have been linked with Barcelona as well, maybe even Kik Pieri. Both those players are very quality and could have been excellent alternatives to what they did get, which was Kabak. And even if they needed somebody from the German league, maybe not Jonathan Tah or Edmond Tapsoba, but maybe Jonathan Tah. And it's not like Liverpool don't have the money, even though they refuse to spend it. You'd assume that Liverpool would have the money to take a signing like that. And I don't think it'd be anything over 40 million to get Tah away from Leverkusen.
Yeah. So, is there any other questions being asked?
I don't believe so. No.
Someone said on the chat here, "What are you doing now?" Well, at the moment we are.
We're answering a Q&A.
Well, on the Q&A. You got another comment from Sam Amberger. Yo.
Yo, Sam, how are you?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming podcast coming up within the next few weeks.
We've got plans. I've been looking into getting people in, and Sam looks like someone we may be able to bring on.
Yeah, Sam. So Sam, Sam? Just say your comments about what you think about that. I'm good. Arsenal. I'm not going to swear
he's an
on this.
Arsenal fan for reference, so that's okay when he says it.
I'm not going to swear on this podcast, so I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this PG. So
what I will say is that our winter window was definitely encouraging. Bringing in Martin Odegaard, even on a 6-month deal, looks very encouraging, and so could be the difference maker between.
Benjamin Gitlin says hello there. Hello there.
Hi, Benjamin.
Love the Star Wars reference.
I love the enthusiasm too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be glad to have any view on the in any upcoming podcast that we do.
Yeah. I guess just contact Mirella and the invitation's always open.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to have any questions, you can ask them in the chat now. Because we're open to conversations we can have.
And you know what I'm thinking? Maybe on top of the podcasts, we can do some just regular uploads or just pre-filmed content.
Yeah, let's see what the viewers want, and we'll provide it for them.
We could do a vote, and I think I'd like to do some sport-focused content, especially around the sport of basketball, which I'm quite passionate about.
I would say that in the conversations community tab of the channel, we can post something there.
Maybe, or we could do the Instagram and poll always.
Yeah, that could also be an alternative, or we could do that as well if you'd want. Give us any suggestions in the comment section. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Or you could contact us via Instagram DM.
Yep, that could also be an option. And in terms of what we're going to be talking about, you can also provide us with some suggestions because we're always open to ideas.
Yeah. So with that said, I think that'll be the end. There's not much else to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, unless any of the audience has any more questions or comments they want to add, we can end it there.
Yeah.
Oh, someone said, Sam Alberger said, guys, I'm watching the Arsenal game, but I'll speak to you guys later about being on the podcast.
Lovely. We'll be happy to talk to you about that and about getting you on.
Thanks for letting us know. Yep, just DM or whatever, or or email. Any would do. Any would do.
Definitely. But that's all from us. Thank you, everyone who came to tune in.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. We hope you join us for next week.
Yeah, and with that said, that's the end from us. We'll be back next week on Sunday at 4:30, as per usual.
Yep. Same time, same place. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining.